most people do not have skills that actually matter, right? That actually, like, you can be really good at video games, but like, how does that transition into, I'm not saying you can't be successful like at playing video games, because you certainly can, but like when you're trying to build something in your life, how do you leverage the skills that you have that you're really good at?
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Leslie Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started. All right, Be It Babe. I am so excited because we have one of my dearest friends. I feel like he's a brother from another Mr. and mother, but he's totally family to Brad and I. It's Michael Unbroken, and we've had him on the podcast before. In fact, one of your favorite podcasts to listen. We got so many reviews, and I got so many DMs about that episode, and so I brought him back. And it's just really fun because he's a dear friend, and we got to go really deep on some conversations and share some of our own things. So I hope that you enjoy hearing this conversation about integrity and goals and taking time for yourself and like your worth. We talk about a lot of things. And so I really hope you enjoy it. I also want to say that there are stories in our lives that can be triggering to some people. And so if that does happen, just forward, and please, you won't offend us. Make sure you take care of yourself and honor that about you. But I do think it's important that you do hear about how Michael grew up or how I've grown up, because it's so easy to look where we are right now and think that we have it all together and it must be nice for us. And the truth is that like we've made decisions along the way that put us in situations that we were in and got us out of situations we're in and also put us where we are today. And I really think it's important that you know that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's probably AstroTurf anyways at this point. And also people's lives are from choices they made, and you might not know the whole story, but you are allowed to have what you want. You are allowed to have the life that you want. You are worthy of those things. And I do hope that this conversation really does help you see that and helps you understand how people like us have made decisions and gotten where we are. And we hope that for you. So here is Michael Unbroken.
All right, Michael, welcome back.
Yo.
I'm so excited you're here in the flesh.
Real life.
I know. I love actually doing these in person. I know you do most of your interviews in person, but I actually think it's quite fun. And it's also so nice to have a friend who lives in Vegas come over to do this interview. When we last had you on, you were living in Denver. So what's new?
Yeah. Well, I mean, living here, kind of, I guess, quasi, right? Being on the road all the time makes it feel very difficult, but I've just come to accept like that's my reality. Like I like being on the road. I mean, you get it, right? Because you're on the road all the time. Something fun about it.
Yeah, I think you choose your choices. Like that's kind of my thing. So like, when people are like, oh my God, you're so busy. I'm like, I chose all these things. So like, I don't really feel comfortable. Like I'm not going to complain about it, because if I complain, it means I want to change something. Yeah. And if I don't change it, then I'm not going to complain about it.
I watched, have you ever seen Up in the Air? It's that George Clooney movie where he like flies around and fires people.
Yes.
There's this scene where he's like in the lounge taking out all the cards out of his wallet. I got this card and this rewards card and that card. And I was just like, that's my life. And there's a scene where like this new girl has come into the company and they're going to try to make everything virtual. But this dude's like a road warrior. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to do that. And that's how I feel, because I love the adventure. And it's like, that's part of the choice that we make in everything. It's not that it's not difficult. I mean, there's sacrifices, right? Because it's like, if you want to go be this person, it hurts friendships, it hurts relationships, it hurts having a normal life. But also the ones that you have are better. Yeah. In this weird way, because you're actually like here.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think it's like, it really changed. You have to be more communicative with the people in your life. Like, this is the life I live, and this is how I can hang out with you, and this is how I can spend time with you. And when I'm with you, this is how I will show up. I promise. But it forces communication. And then some people don't like it. Like, I have people in my family, like, you travel so much, you never see us. And it's like, well, it's not that I never see you. It's just I don't see you as much as you probably would like, and that would make you feel comfortable. But we don't always get what we want. And as long as I'm like operating in integrity and I'm communicative with you, I think we can make it work. But I also find that I have tried doing nothing. We did it in the pandemic. Like, I stood around here for 2 years and didn't really go a lot of places. And there was something nice about being home and having a routine. But I love being on the road. So I have tried to figure out like a balance. Like, I don't think I go on the road as much as you. I'm like, 1 trip a month is plenty. 2 trips a month, I'm like, it better, wherever I'm going, number 2 better be amazing.
Yeah. Well, but also, like, if you think about it, it's a choice. We've decided to do this. I decided that I'm going to be the one who gets on the plane and go to 7 cities in a month and speak at all these events and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, if you think about it, when we make intention, like, we had lunch together 2 weeks ago or whatever, we don't flake on each other. You're like, here it is. Like, we're going to do this. And I think a lot of people don't take advantage of the time that they actually have with people, and they reschedule and they cancel, and they're like, I'll do it this time, and then we'll see you next time. And, you know, and people always will go, oh, it's not a big deal that you canceled on me. And I'm like, actually, it's a freaking huge deal. Like, you have to understand, like, time is the one variable we don't get more of. And so I'm like, if I make plans with my friends, you know this, I have guys night, Brad comes to it. It's like, I have all these different things in my life where it's like, I try to build this framework of time, knowing that it's really the only thing that, because I can't get back, it has to take precedent over everything. So I'm with you, I'm present. I'm with my friends, I'm present. Like, I'm not in whatever other element of life I could be in that moment.
I love that you brought it up, not flaking on each other, because I actually was looking back at our text messages, and it was, all I saw were like dates. I was like, we were like sending each other dates back and forth to have an intentional opportunity to actually hang out. And I was looking back at our text message, and we were very intentional on dates we set. And we've talked about a couple of our friends who will sort of flake out on things. And it's like, I don't make plans with you.
Yeah.
It's really, and that's kind of, I think it's hard for a lot of people who are people pleasers, or like they want to be liked. And it's like, of course I don't want people to hate me, but I also have to understand that if I set aside the precious time that I have in town to be with you, or to be wherever I am, if I'm coming into your town, I'm going to be there. If I set that aside, it means I'm not doing something with anyone else, including I'm not doing anything for myself. I'm just doing something to hang out with you. So if you're going to flake, it happens. I'm not asking for perfection, but be honest and really make sure you let me know as soon as possible. You know, I mean, it's not like we're perfect, but I do think the intention is there. And when you do have to reschedule something, you know, being intentional about how you reschedule that, not go, hey, let's reschedule for another day. It's like, okay, well, that's never going to happen.
Yeah. Like, how integrous are you? Right? Where's your level of integrity? That's what I think about with it. Because especially, and look, I get like, not most people don't live lifestyles like us. No. Right? And that's fine. And you don't have to. Like, if you do the 9 to 5 thing, cool. But like, still, it's like, why are you flaking on your friends? When everything changed for me in, like, I guess it was probably 8 years ago now, 9 years ago. I get a text from one of my buddies, and he's like, hey, wasn't this your friend? And he sends me a link to an online news article. My childhood best friend, Seth, this guy that I did everything with from the time that we were like 11 years old. Have I told you this story?
No.
So Seth and I grew up very similar circumstances. His dad was this crazy alcoholic. His mom was working like 3 jobs. We both go to the same elementary school. We go to the same high school for a period of time. We both played football together, wrestled, everything. Like, we were best friends. Actually, the first tattoo I ever got was with him. We went and, you know, this is 2004. We're dead broke. We have no money. He found a way to make money. And one day he calls me. He's like, hey, you know, we can go make $150 if we sell our plasma.
Yeah, Yes, that's true. You can.
And so we went, well, and this is, 20 something years ago, where not only do we go sell the plasma once, we do it like 3 times in one day, which is.
Can you sell that much?
No, of course not. But like everything was paper then. It wasn't all digitized like it is now. So we go make all this money and we go get these tattoos. So I have a matching tattoo with him. And he's working a job at this Johnny Rockets, downtown Circle Center Mall, Indianapolis, flipping burgers, doing fries, whatever. I had just gotten a job at a Wendy's, and I was a general manager in training. So I'm making $36,000 a year at 18 years old.
That's millions of dollars.
It's like
in 18 years.
$1 million. Not only that, but if you look at 2004, that's probably $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like it's real money.
Yeah.
I'm on my own. I have my own car, my own place, everything. And he's fucking flipping these burgers. And I'm like, dude, fuck that. Come work over here. I'll get you a job. Mm-hmm. Now I got him the interview. He ends up getting himself the job. Well, 3 weeks into it, he just stops coming.
No.
And I would think about that. I'm 18. I put my name on the line. I'm like, we're about to get a $500 bonus or whatever.
Right.
And I come to find out he's back at Johnny Rockets fucking flipping burgers, making $4 an hour or whatever. I was irate. Like, you have no idea how mad I was.
Yeah.
Now I look at it differently. I'm like, well, we're all on our own path. Like, it's not up to me what he does. I stopped talking to him, replying to him, text messages, AIMs, aging myself, MySpaces, nothing. And he would call me all the time for years. And nothing. I was so mad at this guy. And he was my best friend. He was like my brother. And I get this text from another mutual friend. I'm like 29, 30 years old. And it's a link to a news article in the Indy Star. Indianapolis man shot dead in his living room.
Oh my God.
And somebody had walked into Seth's house as a bad drug deal gone bad and just blew his fucking brains out.
Oh my God.
Closed casket, whole nine. And I still don't know that I'm entirely like through that.
Yeah. But
that moment shifted everything for me because I was like, I never get to apologize. I never get to fix this. I never get to cross this bridge. This friendship that meant more to me than anything. He was my brother. He was the person that was with me when I got kicked out of the house, when I got expelled from high school. The first time I ever had sex, like it was at his house. Like it was like this whole thing.
Yeah.
And because I felt the ego has such a need to be right, to be wrong, and to be offended. Yeah. And I was all of them. And it took away that relationship. And then my best friend Kevin got murdered. Another one of my friends and I was just like, man, fuck. Like, your people have to be the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Because I never get to have that conversation with him. And so when I think about the times we schedule, or my guys' night, which Brad comes to, or when I'm on the road and I make the time, or in the same for you guys. Like, you guys were on the road and made the time to come hang out with me in Denver. I'm like, I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I get tomorrow with you.
Yeah. All of that is really sad. And there's those moments that like really teach us something, and who knows if you had answered an AIM, what would have been the change there? But I think we kind of understand ourselves a little bit more in those things. And it's like you get to go back and go, how would I have wanted to handle that? And it doesn't mean it would have changed any other outcome, but maybe you would have been able to feel like, at least I said my thing. Because I think anyone listening would be like, of course I would not talk. Like, you put your name on the line, even at 18, even at 40, like that stuff matters.
It does matter, for sure.
So, but I do agree. It's like what is integrity to us? Like, what feels integral, and how do we want to operate there? And it doesn't always mean that it will be the right thing. Like, looking back, you might be like, felt like it was an integrity then, but that didn't go the way I expected it to go. But I think we have to have values. I think it goes back to, that's one of the values that we have in our lives, is for Brad and I, and then also in our business. It's like, if we say we're going to do something and we can't do it, we have to communicate why we can't do it. Otherwise, we're out of integrity. And that makes people not trust you or not want to be around you or not want to participate with you. And what is life if you don't have these relationships, whether they're in your town where you are or out in the world where you get to be? Like, I live for the calls I have with my girlfriends who don't even live in this town with me, but they get what I do. They understand what I'm going through. And some days I just need to go. Like yesterday, I had a coffee date with a girlfriend, and it'd been a few months since we talked. And she was like, "How are you doing?" I said, "Well, to be honest, in this moment, not great. And if we hadn't set this up 3 months ago, I would still be in bed right now because I'm not having a good day. But we had this call, so I'm here, and I'm just letting you know I'm not my best." And she's like, "Well, I'm not my best. Let's talk about what's going on, and then what do we each need?" And that was such a great moment to have. And because of integrity and because I want to live my life, I showed up for that call.
Yeah, there's like three rules to life, and this is for me, and I try to like instill this in my clients. I look for this in my friendships and the people I date and potential relationships, business partnerships, everything. And it's like, number one, are you honest? Number two, do you show up? Even when you don't want to, because you're like, fuck, man, I'm just having a day. I want to stay in bed. I'm going to Netflix and chill, whatever. Right. And then three is like execute. Like, do you actually follow through? Right? Because showing up is like being in the room, but executing is like, I'm doing the thing. Because you see this, you coach people, right? In business and in personal. And there's people who like, you lay out the game plan and they're in it and they're hyped up and they're like, I'm going to do everything. And then they go home and nothing is different.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm like, are you doing all three of those?
Yeah.
And the reason why it's so important to me is like, I used to not do any of that. Like, I mean, you know, my story, and people may have listened to me on here before. And people who are listening to this on the other podcasts, like they know my story. Like, I was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, do you want to be that?
Yeah. I think what I love is, one, I love that you share your story so much because it allows people to see you can change. Like, maybe you felt like you were a piece of shit back then, and like but look what you've done with your life and how you're acting. And that execution is so hard. I actually have 2 calls tomorrow with people who are not executing what they signed up for. And they're seeing everyone in their group surpass them. And so now they're like double downing on themselves and how not where they want to be. And like, there's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of things that they're saying. And it's like, I hear you. Like, they are going further. And I understand that life is sucking right now, but you also still have to show up for yourself in some capacity. How do you, like, what are the ways that you help people kind of actually execute, not just be in the room?
Yeah, I think I try to lead first, right? So it's funny, I was just coaching a client driving over here. And it's like, even if I have to get in the car and drive half an hour to the other side of town because I have a commitment, and it's my bad because here's what's interesting in this phase I'm in right now. Like, I'm not a slave to time in the way I normally am, which I think is actually a good thing to be a student of your calendar. I'm just kind of like nonchalant about everything. And I was getting ready to head over here. I was like, oh, fuck, I got a coaching call right now, which isn't in the norm, right? But it's about like recognizing that you have to do the thing, right? And sometimes it's like you got to make a small pivot. But what I'm always trying to get to, like at the end of the day, like if my head is on the pillow, did I do everything I said I was going to do? And I don't allow myself to go to bed if I didn't. And that's like a consequence. And I think that we need to be able to give ourselves consequences for our lack of action. And I don't necessarily mean like consequence, like it's pain. Like, you don't have to like self-flagellate, right? But it's like, I'm not going to bed till I'm done.
Yeah. I also think that it helps you understand like how much you can actually promise that you'll do that day, because you're not going to want to, you're not going to want to get missed on sleep days in a row.
I learned that earlier. I was like, fuck, man, that's too much.
Yeah.
Right. But it's all this is about know thyself. It's like, okay, so you're going to have these coaching call clients tomorrow. Like, what about them? Because in my mind, you say that to me and I go, well, they're trapped. They're stuck in their own mindset, which could be easily solved by taking an action.
Yeah.
And so what are you presenting to them?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking about today and what I'm going to figure out in the meeting, because the actions that I gave them last time I thought were, so here's what I know as a habits coach, like trained with BJ Fogg, like on calls. He is the behavior scientist from Stanford. He's the one every habits book has copied.
Yeah. And you're about those habits too, because you'll text me at like 6:30 in the morning. You're like, I'm on the mat.
I know. I'm like, get on your are you on your pep mat? So here's what I know. the people that typically are attracted to the type of work that I do, they're typically perfectionist overachievers.
Okay.
And so they have a really hard time doing little. But what the science shows is that you do not create habits unless you actually achieve. You actually have to complete.
You have to win.
You have to have wins. Yeah. You have to celebrate. You have to be kind to yourself. And so if you are in a judgment shame zone, I promise you, you will never, ever, ever create a habit around that thing, because your brain's going to be like, I don't want, that thing brings me shame. It makes me feel stressed. It doesn't make me feel good about myself. So I had thought that the 5 minutes of taking time for themselves was actionable. And now I think I need to get even more specific. I need them to get more specific with me with what those 5 minutes are going to be, or what that 1 minute is going to be, because maybe 5 minutes to do anything for themselves is almost still too much. And that's okay. Like, this is what's so important. I'm not going to get mad at myself for, I'm not going to go, oh, that was dumb, Lesley, you didn't help them enough. It's like, every single person is different. For some people, they need the freedom of those 5 minutes being anything. And for some people, it needs to be very specific. These 5 minutes are for me to go for a walk. And it's important that people know themselves, and you're not going to know yourself until you do it a way it didn't work. Like, that's just, you won't know. Maybe, like, you know this about your business. Like, have you ever like done something in your business and it like freaking like soars, and you're like, wow, that was amazing. But then you go to redo it again and it doesn't have the same thing. Cause like, you almost learn better when the idea fails. Cause you're like, okay, we could have done that better. We could have done this better. Like, when it wins the first time, you're not really sure what was the thing that was the best.
I think that's all of life though.
Right.
I mean, if I go track back everything I've ever done, it's always been that. It's like, sometimes things work really well and sometimes they don't. And I think the hard part about it is like recognizing like it actually doesn't matter at the end of the day. What matters is like, are you still going forward? And I think that's where people get trapped. And so I have the benefit on my side of being a nihilist. Like, I don't care about anything, which is really weird, right? There's a juxtaposition.
So funny, because I think you would care so much.
Well, there's a juxtaposition I live my life in, right? So think about this. Name your great-great-grandpa.
Oh.
Exactly. Right? And so people always are talking about legacy. They're like, I'm going to build the legacy. Outside of a few outliers, we have some Tony Robbins and Napoleon Hills and Abraham Hicks, and those people will live a bit longer than the average.
Yeah.
But most people can't name their great-great-grandpa, let alone their grandfather, right? Yeah. But yet we live in this society that pushes legacy, go do the thing. And I'm like, it actually doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, nothing that we do matters. And here's what I hold simultaneously. One, that concept paired with everything I fucking do in this moment is the most important thing that I do.
Right.
Right. And so if you can like wrap your head around that, it's a weird sense of freedom. So like, even though like I build businesses and I coach people, I speak on these stages, the podcast, blah, blah, blah. It's like, as I look down the tunnel, I got the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter. And we hold ourselves to this account where it's like, fuck, man, like it's got to be perfect. It's like, no, it doesn't. My book here, let me say this real quick, because you'll see why I said this. My first book has like a ton of reviews on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, on Apple. All of them are 5 stars, the first book, except for one. And it's a 2-star review. And the person goes, I couldn't get through the book. The grammar is terrible.
Oh, I have that review too. I have all 5s. And then I have that person.
Here's why I don't care about the 5 stars or the 2 stars. Because I did that for me. I was like, I'm going to write a fucking book, and then I'm going to write another one, and then I'm going to do another one, and then make the podcast, and then I'm going to speak on stages. I'm going to write coaching programs. I'm going to do all that. And it's just like, I'm just going to do it. But people who are in that perfectionist mindset, they're trapped in the idea of the other person's opinion is so important that if they get the 2-star review, it will cripple them. And I don't care. And so maybe that makes me very nonchalant, but you see how I operate in the world.
Yeah, because when I said I think you care a lot, the being care is not that you care about what I think. I feel that you care about the people that you put yourselves in a room with. Like, whenever I'm in a room with you or Brad's in a room with you, we can tell that you care about the people in that room in that moment.
For sure.
So I think it's really fascinating. And it goes kind of back to what we've been talking about this whole time, is that integrity, but also that intentionality of like, you're like, in this moment, this is all that I'm really here that matters. And that once I leave this moment, whatever, it's over. And
Yeah.
what anyone says about that moment, whether they were there or not, it doesn't actually pertain to me because that moment's over and I can't change it.
This is why I can't get canceled.
Right.
Right. And I've been attempted to be canceled 4 times. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I have a question for you though, because I think this is important. You get a 2-star review? How do you feel about that?
At the time, I wasn't really ready for it. And
meaning,
like I read it and it was kind of like exactly my worst fear. You know, it was a grammar one, and I had an editor go through it.
Why was it your worst fear?
Because my grammar isn't awesome, and so like I didn't want anyone to see the grammar problems and not get what the book was about. Like I wanted the book to actually help them, and I didn't want the grammar to take away from helping them. So I did hire an editor. They didn't catch everything. No one does. They're not perfect. Yeah. So when I got that, of course, like it felt like the wind got knocked out of me. Now this is 10 years ago. Very different person. Sure. And I let the wind get, luckily I lived in LA at the time and I did drive around at the time. So I was in traffic and I let myself like get the wind knocked out of me. And then I got angry at the person. And then I got like, whoever this person was, because I was like,
you're
fuck
grieving.
You. Fuck you. Like I was going through the whole stages of grief. But I was like, wait a minute. This is not an English book. This is a book to make sure that Pilates instructors stop getting swindled out of their dollars because people are selling them shit programs. Yeah. Period. And do any of the commas or periods in there fuck up that message? No, they don't. Yeah. So I wrote back, it's a good thing I'm not an English teacher. I hope that you don't get swindled out of the wrong programs, you know, and good luck on your journey. And I was like, it did take me the whole day to get there. Now I bounce back much quicker. Now I laugh so hard because people on YouTube love to write a ton of shit about me. But my people come for them, which is also a lot of fun. But I think like, it also, you have to get to a point where you can go, I didn't do this. Like I had to get to the point where I was like, wait a minute, I didn't do this for that person. I hadn't done it for me yet, but I absolutely did it to help people. And it was a particular group of people and that person wasn't it. And so I had to like learn whose opinions of me matter. Oh, not that person. It wasn't who I was doing it for. Yeah.
And that goes back to the ego's need to be right. It's like, why even give the energy to respond? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, and part of it, you want the rebuttal because you'd be like, go fuck your mother. Right. Yeah. Like that's how I think about it. and I work really, really hard because like I have very strong opinions. Like, you know me personally. Yeah. Like there are times where I say shit where most people are like, I cannot believe you just said that. And I'm like, why? Like, if we have freedom of speech and part of being a human being is the ability to express who we are. And look, I'm not saying there's not consequences because there certainly are, but I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. And I think that in that there's again, I'm going to tie into that word freedom. When I rebuttal to people, I really take a step back and I'm like, what does this serve? Right? Because I think that we want to argue and fight and we have this need to be right all the time. And I do too. And it's something that I have to really think about it because there's like 7 times a day where I'm like, I need to be right. And a hard part about it is I'm right a lot. And so it just fuels my ego more. And then when I'm wrong, which I really appreciate when somebody will sit across from me and be like, you're looking at it wrong, I learn. And there's power in that. Yeah. And I think that you have to be willing to be a learner.
Yeah. I think that's hard because people, it's like our entire way that we're educated on this this country that we're both in is like to get the A.
Yeah, which is pointless.
It's so pointless because all it teaches is like, we'll just copy the smart kid in class because like, why get in trouble? And so you have to be right when it's like, it's so much more important to value the journey that you got there and like how you got that answer and like where that came from. And like, I think that's really hard because people, it's not that they want to be, they have to be right in front of you or in front of somebody else. It's that they're afraid if they're wrong, then people are going to judge them for being wrong. And it's like, no, it's okay to learn. It's okay to go, oh, I never thought about that way. That's not the life experience I had. So of course I didn't think about it that way. Thank you for letting me know about a different life experience.
Yeah. And that's because we think that people are thinking about us.
Oh, what? Right? They're not?
They're not. Nobody gives a shit about you. I mean, that's a very crass way of saying it, but like realistically, nobody's thinking about me right now.
That is, well, and that is something that takes a long time for people to even, and I even recently, there was something that was going on around the holidays where I had, like, it felt like everyone was thinking about me just because a lot of people were reaching out. But, thank you, I am. But because there were a lot of people reaching out, which made me think, oh my God, a lot of people are thinking about this. But when it came down to it and I looked at the statistics of what was going on, and I actually looked at things, I was like, oh, not many people are thinking about this. And so I'm stressing about what people are thinking about me when really they're not. And it's such a freeing moment to go, they're not. And that's okay. It is okay.
Why did that shift for you? Because like you're a public figure like me, you've had your face up on big ol' ass billboards and you're, you know, this person that people look towards for stuff, whatever that stuff is that you have at the moment. Like, I know this about myself. I'm going to create context for the question. I know this about myself. I was invisible as a kid, right? Growing up, being homeless, being the worst kid in school, being the kid who smelled like garbage, who wore clothes from the Goodwill in the church, who was on the food stamp cards, and I was invisible. And I played sports, and I was particularly fond of wrestling because it was me versus one person. And I have a bunch of championships wrestling, because I loved being on the podium and being first place. And it was like I am fueled by this need to be seen. I know this I will admit this publicly. Why do I like speaking in front of 10,000 people? Because motherfuckers are paying attention to me.
Yeah.
Right. And so with what you just said, how do you handle like, okay, I'm this public persona, but at the same time, I recognize people don't think about me.
Well, first of all, I remember, like, I love the hero's journey, and I love reminding myself I'm the guide, not the hero. So I think that that's important.
What context that for people?
Yeah. So, so in what we do as coaches, as people who have ideas of solutions for problems that people want to have solved, it is so important for people who work with me to understand that they're solving the problem. I'm just presenting an option for them. And like, if you like, here's the option, I can take you across this bridge, but you're still the one that shines. You're still the one that is the rock star. You're still the one that did it. I cannot do it for you. And so for me, like, that's kind of how I keep it in check. It's like, whoa, hold on. Because if it really bothers me, then I'm trying to be the hero of their story. And that's not why I got into this. And that's not sustainable. That's exhausting. And that's like, you have to be too many things to too many people. But as a guide, it's like, well, you can choose me as your guide, or you could choose you as your guide, or there's like 17,000 people in the city that you could choose as your guide. And that's the choice that they have to make. So that's kind of how I do it. And that's not easy when I can see that I am the guide for this person. Like, there's that ego. I'm like, but I know I can help them. Then my job is to make sure that my messaging and what I put out in the world makes them feel comfortable for me to be their guide. But I still can't be like me. You have to do that yourself. And then I think the other, you were talking about being seen. I think that's so interesting to go back and wonder why you do things, because I do all the stuff so that people belong, because I never felt like I belonged. I felt like the weird kid in town.
You are the weird kid.
I am still the weird kid.
But I am too, and that's why we get
all
along.
The weirdos get, yeah, and right? So like and again, like, because I'm sure people that I grew up with listen, it's not that I don't think I had friends. It's that I actually just never felt like I always felt like the outsider in the group, partly because I did not have money. And I did not have the new clothes. My grandmother was a secretary at an elementary school. And so at the end of every school term, we would go through the clothes that were left behind, because the kids that left them behind, you know, they had good clothes. I had the best jean jackets of the 90s. Like, you would have thought I was rich because I had all these jean jackets.
But you're just a year behind.
A year behind, and there's someone else's that left them behind. Yeah. But like, so I felt.
Did you ever have a moment where a kid came up to you and like, that's my jacket?
Thank goodness no.
That happened to me once.
Really?
It was one of the most embarrassing experiences of my entire childhood. It was a Tommy Hilfiger jacket. It was one of those pullovers. It was red, white, and blue. I'll never forget it. And I was like, oh my God. Because it was in the lost and found, and I didn't have a coat because we're fucking poor. And like, one of the teachers gave it to me from lost and found. A week later, this kid's like, that's my jacket.
Oh, that hurts my soul, because I do understand that. Like, so I do everything to involve community. There has to be a community aspect. And it's because like, I just know how important it is to feel like you belong in a group and you're safe in a group, and that people miss you and expect you to be in that group. And so that's kind of how that's what everything is driven. If you look at anything we do, there's a community to it.
Yeah.
There just is. We do the FYFs here because I want to, it's the only way I can share the listener community's stuff.
What does FYF mean?
Oh, fuck yeah, Fridays.
Okay.
Do you do this?
No.
You should.
What does it mean?
I mean, you celebrate things all the time, so maybe you don't need it. But fuck yeah, Friday is like, if I would love people to celebrate their wins every single day, but most people won't. So on Fridays, you celebrate a win. And it's even better if it's a small win or a win that like the project is imperfect or it's not completed yet. But I share listeners' wins and then I share a win of mine. And it's like 8 minutes long, 9 minutes long. It's super short. And the whole idea is to get people to think about like, oh, I never thought about that being a win. That is a win. Like just people need to celebrate that they've done shit. They've done stuff and they don't give themselves credit for it.
Yeah, they don't. I didn't either for a long time. I was speaking at, it sat with me the most. So if you know Grant Cardone, he invested in my company. I had spoken at one of his boot camps. It was 10,000 people watching. And it was a pitch competition where I was like, a Shark Tank kind of thing, where I was pitching Think Unbroken and what I do. And like, I fucking crushed. I destroyed everybody. It was incredible. I'll say this too, because I can sometimes probably come off as like maybe egotistical, but I just believe in myself more than most people believe in themselves. Like I'm not Kanye level self-belief, but sometimes I'm pretty close.
We'll keep you posted
right?
if you cross over.
Yeah, that's what you need. That's what you need friends for, right?
If Brad and I ever go, hey Kanye, you'll go, oh,
if you ever hear me go, I am a god, like be concerned. But like you need that. Like I always teach my clients, you need to believe in yourself because if you don't, who will? And so I'm like getting ready to go on stage and do this pitch. And we're in the green room with all these other people who are about to pitch this business. And one of the women goes, well, good luck everybody, but I already won. And I remember, I didn't say this verbally, but in my head, I was like, you're fucking insane. You have no idea how much you just fueled me to crush you even more. Because I'm super competitive, right? So we get on stage. Grant goes, who wants to go first? I raise my hand so fast, it's like coming out of my fucking socket. Because I know one rule in business and in life, always go first. If it's scary, you're about to do the zip line, go first. If it's, you got to get on the plane, go first. Like always go first. Always, always, always. Because automatically you will present yourself as a leader and the alpha in the situation, which I think is important because we don't have enough leaders in this world right now. And so I go first, I crush, literally like the next 4 people are like, blah, 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 blah. It's like incredible to watch. And not for them, but for me. And so at the end, Grant goes, okay, yeah, this is no brainer. We know who won. And it was me. And I knew I won because I had visioned it literally thousands of times leading up to that moment. I'd done this speech a zillion times. And he said something to me and it sits with me going to Fuck Yeah Friday. He said to me, dude, hold on, take your flowers. And that means like in that moment or whenever it is, celebrate the things that you have done. We move too fast constantly, where it's like on to the next, on the next, on the next. And I think as entrepreneurs, especially, we're guilty of this, where I'm like, I did something incredible and I'm like automatically into the next thing.
Yes.
And it's like, hold on, pause. Maybe it's not, I just spoke in front of 10,000 people, because for most people, that's not what it's going to be. But maybe it's, I brushed my teeth today. That's where my journey started. Like for real. I was like, get out of fucking bed, dude. Go brush your teeth. And some days that's all I did.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what people have to recognize, because that gives you a win. And if you have one win, you start stacking them and it becomes exponential and compounding. And then next thing you know, a year later, your life is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you celebrate your wins? How do you take your flowers?
Oh, I'm a verbal processor. So you will hear me around this house going, fuck yeah, I'm amazing. Just killed that. Like
fucking egomaniac.
But like I do. And like, so there's this hilarious story. I was in this program with Jay Grimes, and he is one of the last living people to have studied with Joseph Pilates. And you had to like basically assess to stay in the program. And I was really struggling with this last portion of it. I could never get all the exercises done in the time that I knew I had to get them done. I was really struggling. And I was a little nervous because I was like, oh my God, like if I can't get this done in this time, I'm going to miss out, and I'm not going to graduate with my friends. I'm not going to finish with my friends. Like, then there's the ego of like, I have to do it all over again. I have to wait till next year. And I was like, hold on. Okay, we're just going to visualize it. So I went there that day, and I like got there an hour early, and I just visualized myself doing every single exercise at every single station, doing it. And like, I'm like having a good time. So when I did the actual assessment, there was an exercise that I really struggled with, and I did it. And as I was finishing, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm amazing. And I went on to the next thing, and he just was like, what? Because no one talks. And I'm like, nailed that, did that. So like, whether I did or not, this person who was judging me, they're going, okay, I guess she nailed it. But like, so that's when I first started noticing that was one of my best pep talks for me, was just like saying it out loud. That might not work for other people. You might want to dance or maybe want to high five your kids or something like that. But that worked really well for me. And I still do this to this day. And when you were talking about that, it made me think of, have you read the book, The Big Leap?
No, I have not.
Gay Hendricks, people who listen to the pod, I talk about this book all the fucking time. It's an annual read for me. If you listen to books on tape,
buying it right now.
Listen to it at 1.4 speed. It's like your grandfather you never had read you a lovely story, because maybe your grandfather was lovely. My grandfathers were like realists, pretty negative people. So like, wasn't my grandpa, but the grandpa I wanted. So there are different things we do to upper limit ourselves.
Yes.
And specifically when we are winning, specifically when we like have a win, it pulls us out of our comfort zone, because in our comfort zone, like we're probably not winning all the time. So when we do something that pulls us out of our comfort zone, there are things that we do to upper limit ourselves and then pull ourselves back in. And there's a few, he's like 7 of them. One of them is self-deprecation. Another one is worrying. Another one is picking fights. Some people get sick. I had a client who every time she met a guy that she liked and had a date with him, one date with him, she would lose her fucking voice. Gone for 6 months. So the relationship effectively died because there's no second date, because she lost her voice for 6 months. And I was like, I'm just going to say this. I think you're doing this to yourself. I think this is like, I'm not saying it's in your head, but like there's something, you've been on 3 dates in 18 months and you've lost your voice 3 times. Like this is really a thing. So I am someone who, and you got to know this about yourself so you can catch it. So I'm the person, when I complete something and I have a win, I will look for all the things that aren't completed yet. And I will go focus on like all the things that aren't going well. So like I had this big win and I'm like, well, this didn't go well and this didn't go well and this thing over here is not done and we're not doing that the right way. Instead of actually just taking a moment, to Grant Cardone's thing, picking the flowers. And so now it's so important, and Brad is very much on board with this. When we have a win, we just celebrate the win. Tomorrow, 2 hours from now, whenever, we can actually look at the other things that have to happen. But right now it's just celebrating the win and really like sitting in that. And maybe we light a candle. I don't know, like whatever. Sometimes I do. We do. Sometimes I light the money candle. Like it happens. But like, it's so, so important, because otherwise you're just building the muscle that pulls you back into your comfort zone.
Yeah. What is the money candle?
Oh, welcome to my house.
Is it made out of money?
No, it has crystals inside, and you do a whole little meditation, inviting money in, and then you light the money candle, and then ideally you leave it burning until it burns itself out, and then there's crystals inside that are like, you know, incensed with your vision or your dream. I'm currently this week while I'm working burning the obstacle remover candle, because
we are so different.
So this is why you like me though. But like I'm a visual person, verbal processor. So having that burning, like as soon as like I'm like, oh, obstacle, we're doing it. We're gonna like it just helps me like remind myself my things. But I get them, they don't pay for this show, House of Intuition. They sell these candles and I fucking love them.
I laugh because you know me, I'm not very woo-woo, right?
No, I would say, but Brad is a one woo guy and he burns the money candle.
Yeah. I could see that. Mine is sage. Like, cause I have seen, like I don't necessarily want to go down this path, but like I have seen shit and I'm like, I need to sage immediately.
Do you sage with like burning the sage, or do you have sage spray, or do you both?
The burning it.
Oh, I'm going to show you when you leave the house today. I'm going to show you my sage spray. You need to take it on your trips. It'll fit in your travel pack, because you're seeing 10,000 people. You got to sage yourself. You got to, you know.
There's something interesting about, like, as I go deeper into my own personal journey, whether it's with psychedelics or whether it's just through meditation or just feeling energy, I've come to realize I'm actually an empath. which is really strange because I always have been able to pick up on tones, emotions, feelings. And it's a fucking buzzword. Everybody's an empath now. It's like, shut up. No, you're not. And it's like, I feel that. And it's like, I realize, especially through podcasting and bringing all these different people into my home, into my studio, into my life, and talking about really heavy shit. Like there's something, and look, it might just be psychosomatic where I'm like, if I just sage this house, like I feel better. Sage the studio, sage my backpack, like whatever. That's probably my woo-woo thing.
I think that's, I think some people might like see a white light that cleanses them. I think it's important to have some rituals that help you kind of shed things that are not needed in the moment you're in, because shit happens. Like your mom's going to text you at the worst fucking time and you're gonna be like, ugh, I don't have time to deal with that right now. And it's like you kind of have to figure out what works for you to get back into the headspace you need to be in for the thing that you're wanting to do.
Yeah. And not be dogmatic too. Like I think one of the things that I've grown tremendously over the years is to not be dogmatic.
Right.
Because I've found that is the ultimate fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're dogmatic about anything and there's no room for opportunity, touch as a favor and grace. And then suddenly you're like, it's kind of like these people that we coach, right? Because on this one hand, you have to be exposed to this new idea and we lay it out in front of you. And it's like, if you are unwilling, I remember I've never shared this before, so I'll be cautious in the way that I do. I've only ever let go of one client ever in almost a decade of doing this. And this person was so incredibly dogmatic in their belief that this wouldn't work that I had to fire them. Yeah. And look, I hire my clients in the same way they hire me, because it's my time, it's my energy, it's my resources, it's my team, it's everything, right? And so this person, I would sit in front of them and we would have these conversations and I'm exploring opportunity. And the thing I'm always trying to lay within people's framework is like, be solution oriented. Because if you can just do that, there's so much potential in front of you. Instead of looking for roadblock, look for possibility.
Yeah.
And like this person, they just refused and I had to fire them. And I remember thinking in that moment, you talk about like evaluating yourself as the person who does this. I'm like, am I a bad coach? Because I couldn't win that person. And I was recently with my mentor, and we have an interview show every Wednesday where we interview just 3 to 4 people forever. Like we're at 600 episodes almost. And I came in later, so I haven't been there for all 600. But one of the guys who were coaching, his name's Bill. His last name fucking escapes me right now, so I apologize. But he said something fascinating to me. He goes, players win games. Coaches win players. And I was like, but you can't win them all.
Right.
And that applies to that's a great parable for life, because it's like, you can't win all the time.
Right.
You're going to suck as a coach. You're going to suck as a partner. You're going to suck as a podcaster, as a mom and a dad, as a employee or a business owner. You're going to have days where you just don't win. But it's like, can you just keep going?
That's awesome. I really love thinking like that, because it goes back to like, nothing is ever as bad or as good as we're going to expect. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Like the worst case scenario rarely happens. And the best case scenario rarely happens. Like Brad, love you. And I love his sheets. Like I love like his sheets, like all his calculators, like we can do this. And I'm like, okay, so it's probably not going to hit that money. It's probably going to hit around like 75% of that. So do I want to do it for 75% of that? Is that enough? Is that, you're like, you kind of have to like understand that, but you're not going to win them all. And what I really find as a strength that I have is that when shit hits the fan, I'm like, okay, what else is possible? Like I do really well when something comes up. Of course, I'm not perfect, you guys. I do feel my feelings. There are like a bunch of what the fuck is going on? Yeah. Who did what? And then it's like, okay, so, well, we're not going to quit now. Like we can't stop. So what can we do? And I love that question. Like what is possible? I wonder, there's a reason why it's tattooed on my left thumb, because I'm left-handed. So when I see it, I go, I wonder, like you open up a loop and your brain can't stop thinking until you close it. And to go back to that client you fired, when you're like, no, that's not going to work, period. Correct. Because you've put you haven't even, your brain is not going to search for evidence for it to be true.
So going back to the big leap, there's something I think about a lot, and that's like the next level. There's a guy named Bishop T.D. Jakes. Do you know this guy?
Was he on Oprah?
He may have been. I'm not very.
Is he a pastor?
Yes. So he's a pastor.
Black guy.
Heavyset black dude from
Love
the South.
him. Love him.
Super deep voice, very booming. Like,
he is a voice for pastorship.
Like one of the probably most prolific speakers of our age. I don't necessarily align in a lot of ways with him, but you don't have to. And you don't have to. This is one of the things I think all the time. Like, you don't have to always like people to learn from them.
Right.
And he's had something so fascinating that I think applies to everything in life. And I think about this almost every day, literally almost every day. He goes, new levels, new devils.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about in this journey, because it's like, as we continue to progress and grow, like the next thing is coming.
Yeah.
And I think about that all the time. It's like, fuck, man. Like, this idea that it's going to get easy if/when
no
doesn't exist.
No, I interviewed Ripley Rader, and she had that idea. She's you probably don't get these ads, Michael, but I do. She's got these amazing pants that look good on everybody, right? And so I interviewed her, and she had said to her first PR team, she said, oh my God, it's going to be so much easier when X. And they looked at her and said, no, you'll just work more. You'll get there, and then you'll just keep working. Like, it's not easier when, and I think the sooner you can learn that, the less disappointed you'll be in life, and the more opportunities you'll actually look for. TD, he was on Oprah years ago, you guys. I don't know how long ago, but I was listening to Oprah Super Soul podcast, which is like clips of her show. And this woman was like telling a story, and then her life got worse, and her life got worse, and they cut her off, and they said, stop with the story because it's just a story. And they're like, if you actually want to move forth your life, you have to let that go. You have to stop holding yourself to the story and your life being what it is because of this, instead going, what is possible right now? And he told this whole story about some dog. The mom was hit by a car, and so she only worked with 3 legs, and so he dragged one of her back legs, and so then all the puppies dragged their legs. And the reality is, it's like they didn't have to. They had functioning legs, but they were following along with their mom, and it made me go, oh my gosh, like if I don't have kids, but if I don't work on myself and I don't actually figure out how to make things happen, then everyone who does get impacted by me will do things the same way, just based on observing me. So I want to better myself the best I can, so I'm not leading people to drag a leg when they don't need to.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. It's funny, as I just came back from Indianapolis. I grew up there. My little brother just graduated the police academy, and I was having a conversation with my other brother as he was getting ready to go on stage and do all this shit. Or it might have been after. It's one of the other. I don't remember. Kind of like that window is all mushed into one time. And he goes, this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for you, talking about me. Because if you go look at my life, 25 years old, I'm morbidly obese, smoking 2 packs a day, drinking myself to sleep. I'm massively in debt. My car got repoed. My fucking girlfriend found out I was cheating on her with 18 people. I'm not exaggerating that at all. One of my brothers literally goes, never talk to me again. You're not my brother. My life was complete shambles 13 years ago. And last week, this brother looks at me and goes, this wouldn't be possible without you. And it all comes down to this, what you just said. It's like, people are watching. They're paying attention. They are looking at you. They're following you. They're tracking you. They're measuring you. And it's like, I decided to take my brothers to a Tony Robbins event, because even though I'm the trauma guy and I'm the coach, and I have all the books and the podcast and billboards in Times Square, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. They're my brothers. They could not care less.
Yeah.
Right. They care, but less.
Yeah, it's true.
and so I take them to Tony, and their lives are different. But that started with me, where 13 years ago, in my lowest moment, I had enough of my own bullshit. And it's like, you keep dragging that leg, and you wonder why your community sucks, why your family is failing, why your money sucks, why your relationship is garbage, why it's always someone else's problem. It's like, look in the mirror. You were homeless. It was your fault. Like, you know what I mean? I'm literally talking to you, Lesley. It's like you look at that and people go, no, it's not your fault. Life is so hard. It's like for everyone.
Yeah.
So why do you think you're special?
Yeah. One thing I'm really grateful for is my parents. My dad did a really good job of making sure I knew that there will always be someone richer, smarter, prettier, more experienced than me. Like, no matter how high you get today, there's going to be someone who beats you. So you have to always celebrate the work that you did, and you're only as good as the effort you're going to put forward, because there's always going to be someone better. And also, get the fuck out of here. So there was like this, like, you can be anything you want,
just not in his house.
In the kindest way, but like, he really was like, do not get stuck here. But do not get hung up that you're the best thing that ever happened to this planet.
Yeah, the princess mentality is super dangerous. I heard one of my friends call their kid a princess the other day, and I was like, dude, you're setting them up for failure.
Yeah. I think that like one of my dearest friends, his parents actually never celebrated their grades. They only celebrated the effort, because they're like, well, so what if you got an A? We expect you to get an A. You have tutors, you're in the best school. Like, you have all the money in the world, so you should get nothing more than the best grade. But do you like the effort you put into it? Was the effort you put in worthy of that grade?
So I love that. Have you ever accomplished a goal that the accomplishment itself felt better than the effort you put in to get to the goal?
I don't think so, because like, obviously I'm looking back now at things. And so now that I understand the difference between the efforting and the actual accomplishment, like, of course, I like a lot of people who are listening to my podcast know I'm a second generation Pilates instructor. So the accomplishment of becoming that is super cool. But I don't talk about that certificate. I talk about the journey that got me there. And like that made me the strongest. It challenged me in my mindset and the way I thought about how bodies moved and how people act and how I teach people in a way that I can never, ever go back to the person I was before. Yeah. So yeah, I think, but I do think that people get obsessed with the accomplishment. They can't. It's like they're like chasing a dog chasing a car. False
idol.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're missing out on like all the things that they gained along the way.
I still like, here's what's interesting. I'm there in some places, but not in others.
Yeah.
And there is still this place in me where I'm like my goals are the screensaver of my phone, and they're fucking crazy. Like, be a 10-time New York best-selling author. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but here's what's interesting is like, if I don't hit that goal, fine.
Yeah.
But I really want it.
Yeah. So we were talking before we hit record, because there's about James Patrick, the photographer.
Yeah.
He was on a show and he talks about like goals. And he was like, I never have a goal that I'm going to be on the cover of a magazine. Like, I'm never going to have a goal that I'm going to get the cover of a magazine, because he said, it's actually not my choice. It is many people's choice that I'm not even in the room. I don't even know all of them. Like, it's just not it. He's like, instead, my goals are the efforts that could produce that goal. So, and it doesn't mean you can't want to be a New York Times bestseller 10 times over.
Yes.
But that his actual goals for his day, for his week, for his life are the things that put him in the position to get those things. Yeah. So if he wants to be on a cover of a magazine, he actually has to submit and pitch himself to magazines. And so I work really hard with the people that we coach in our business stuff when they put like, oh, I'm going to get 7 new clients this month. And I'm like, hold on, I want that for you. Do you know your conversion rate and how many people it takes you to get a client? Because that we have to figure out like, how many first-time sessions do you have to do? If your conversion rate is 50%, then you need at least 14 first-time sessions. Well, then we have, how do we get do you need
what's
to
your CTR?
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
What's your AOV? What's your and then you really start getting into it, right? And like, obviously that's for business stuff. And
but also, it allows you to figure out like, well, what is the actual goal this month?
Well, because it's measurable, right? And so it's like, actually, this is a really good thought, because it's like, if I want to write 10 New York Times best-selling books, every sentence counts. There's a book on my shelf right now that I finished called Unbroken Man, and it's great, but it's not phenomenal. And so I haven't published it, and I'm rewriting it entirely. I rewrote Think Unbroken 9 times. I'm stepping into rewrite number 3 on Unbroken Man. And it will probably be like 15.
Yeah. what I love about that, I'm sure like part of it is annoying because like, oh, why can't I get it done at number 3? But the reality is that the journey that gets you to the best one that you want to put out there, you learn more about yourself and it makes the book better so that the people who are reading it get the most out of it.
Here's what's it's not annoying though. And here's why it's not annoying, because I decided it's done. I could put it out. But would it be good enough to garner me the cover of the New York Times?
Right. Because your goal isn't to write 10 books. Your goal is to write 10 like worthy best-selling books.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so like you talked about with your clients, like are your goals too vague? Like, are you not dialed in? Like, I know exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And the journey is in pursuing it. And you hear people say this all the time. So it almost is like, are we banging our head against the table here? But it really is about like, make a very nuanced, specific goal and move towards it. But here's what I do. I hate SMART goals. You know SMART goals?
I know. I hate those. It makes me feel like corporate world.
When people lay in front of me, create the SMART, actionable, timely goal. Shut up. Nothing has ever been timely.
No.
Like nothing you've ever done. It's always taken too long, longer than you thought, or happened quicker than you thought. And then what by proxy happens is you get stuck. And you're like, man, this isn't done yet. It's been 4 years. Like I thought I'd write Think Unbroken in like 3 months. It took almost 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had this woman who was like, you have to do like God-sized goals. Like your goals need to be like, you had
Kanye on your show?
I know. Yeah, we had him back a long time ago. No, like, and part of me was kind of like, okay, that's a little unrealistic. But part of me, like, way she explained it was like, the goals need to be so big that it can't be done by just you kicking your own ass.
Yeah.
It's going to require preparation meets opportunity equals what people call luck, right? Yeah. And so she talked about that. And what is fun about that, you guys, is when you think about a goal that's not SMART, that's like actually really big and bodacious and like bold and all these things, it allows you to dream and it gets you out of that could never happen. Oh, that's not going to happen that amount of time. Because when we make SMART goals, we go, okay, well, that can't happen in 9 months. So I guess the goal has to be a year. And then like, so we like talk ourselves out of things and we start changing what the actual goal is. But her idea was like, just make it super big. And then she's like, you go all the way back to where you are today and you just take one step to show the universe, to show yourself that you mean business with this.
Yeah.
Because hers was, and you guys, her name isn't coming to me, so we'll put it in the show notes. But hers was, she wanted to have a mansion that music videos were used her mansion for. You guys, she couldn't balance a checkbook. She was so in debt. And so she's like, okay, I'm going to go learn how to balance a checkbook.
Yeah, seriously.
Millionaires know how to balance their checkbook. And that's what she did. And what happened is when I interviewed her, music videos were using her mansion to do videos. And so I really like that. I think it's a fun way to make goals happen. But I'm a big fan. Like I was the person who did I think we talked about this before, where I would do the maze and I would start at the finish line and I would go backwards. That's how I did all mazes as a kid, like all those games, like you can.
That's so interesting because me too.
Right?
Yeah.
Hello. It's the best. It's the best way to do it.
Well, because it makes sense.
Yeah. You got to start. So I never did a corn maze like as a human. Like I did it one time as a friend. And I like, fuck this. And I cut through the corn maze with my face covered. So I didn't get cut up. But I was like, this is causing me so much anxiety.
100%.
But and that's what everyone does. Everyone's like, okay, I see the goal and they're just going to like find a staircase to heaven. But like, I'm like, no, here's the goal. How do you make this happen? And you guys, it's how we are in this house today. Like people are like, you can't move on June 1st. That's 9 days. You're not going to own a house in 9 days. Everything takes 30 days to buy a house. I'm like, well, you don't fucking know how I work. And I got it.
dude. Yeah. I remember you texting me and being like, I got the house. I was like, good.
Yeah.
Like it's like commit first and figure out the rest later. Right. And it's like, that is what people are so afraid of. That stuckness, the fear of just doing it. It's like, you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here without massive commitment to our lives, to our mission, to our journeys, to our community, to our craft.
Yeah.
Right. You, like me, are very studious in this podcast game where it's like we pretty much consume podcasts. Like most people watch TV and listen to movie or listen to music.
I know. Everyone's like, have you seen this show? And I'm like, no, but have you heard these 17 podcasts?
Did you listen to this 8-hour Andrew Huberman podcast with Lex Friedman? Right. And so it's like that's kind of, and being studious, like I study people, like this is the thing. Skills have utility. Most people do not have skills that actually matter, right? That actually, like you can be really good at video games, but like how does that transition into, I'm not saying you can't be successful like at playing video games, because you certainly can, but like when you're trying to build something in your life, how do you leverage the skills that you have that you're really good at? Because to me, like you're this person who bought the mansion, who had to become a good at balancing a checkbook. Like I don't math, so I just hire someone to do it for me.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the skills to afford to hire someone to do it for me until I built the skills.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things people miss is they're like, we're so indoctrinated by media and society that it's 30 days, Lesley. Nobody does it in a week. It's 30 days, Lesley. Nobody does it in a week. And you could keep hearing that shit. And next thing you know, you're like, yeah, they're right. It's 30 days.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to be steadfast in your conviction of being committed to the goal.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be naysayers. There are going to be people who say you can't. There's going to be people who they will always look for the objection. And it's like, you have to not be around those. I'm not around those people.
Yeah.
No one in my life is negative.
Yeah.
Because when I tell my dreams, like sitting here telling you 10 times New York Times bestselling author, I want to buy a $5 million lake house. I want to do this and do that. If you sat across from me and go, I don't know, man, you're thinking too big, you would be out of my life immediately. And I'm not fucking around because you don't need that energy.
No.
Because when you look at those people, I can show you the relationships, the friendships, and the bank accounts of negative people.
Yeah.
Without even having to meet them.
Yeah. So on Sunday, my photographer was here. I was doing a photo shoot with her. She and I have been working together since 2019. We have started our baby businesses together. Like we have been on this journey together. And so I interviewed her again, and she was sharing like some of the scary, bold things that she's putting herself in a room for that like she would never have put on her vision board. One of those is like photographing like potentially Sting and Coldplay and all these people. Like there's these big opportunities coming up. And yesterday she voice messaged us because she's on her photo shoot tour where she's doing some stuff and she had a celebration and she needed to celebrate with someone. And so she told us, she's like, oh my God, I landed this contract. And Brad and I immediately called her to celebrate on FaceTime, let her cry, all the things. And what I never said to her ever in life, ever since I've known her is, oh my gosh, Monica, no way could you ever photograph Coldplay? You're never going to do like, no way. That is not, you do not need those people in your life. And if they're your family, it sucks to like put them over to a side, but you have to protect these goals you have and make sure that the people around you who hear them are actually supporters of them, because it is way too hard out there already. You do not need extra help to make it harder. Yeah. And more so, I want people who even will sit with me like, that's not even big enough. Are you even trying? You have said that to me before, and I'm like, I have said that to you. You're right. I've said it to you because like it's like it's forest for the trees. You can't necessarily see it because you're in it, and B, we do think too small. Yeah. Right. As a whole. And so it's like you could shoot for that goal and get the 75% and be satisfied. But it's like, what if the goal was 10 times bigger? I would rather have 75% of 10x. Right. And so when I look at it, it's like, when I was in Indy, I'm only sharing Indy again because it was just so fresh. My brothers and I, we went and walked around this street fair, just spending time together before I had to hop on the plane on Saturday. And we walk up to this guy's booth. So it's like crafts fair, arts fair, local this, local that. And this guy had this super cool, like indie clothing brand, like very much up my road of the kind of clothing that I wear, predominantly black, right? Yes. But he had this, right? You know this. It's your power color. So he has, that's right. So he has this super cool black sweater. And I ask him how much it is. This thing is hand stitched. It's cut and sew. It is screen printed on the back. And I know this world because I used to have a clothing company called Click Gear back in the day. It's, it's been closed for a long time, but I was in this world and I put the sweater on. I'm go, oh my God. This
the best sweater I've ever put on. And in my head, I'm like, I'm buying this. It's going to be $120 all day.
Yeah.
All day. How much do you think this sweater was? Probably the best sweater I've ever put on.
Well, part of me wonders if he's undercharging. So I'm going to say he was probably charging like $60.
$50.
Shut the fuck up.
$50. And I look at him and I go, you need to raise your prices. And me saying that made this, I could see visibly how uncomfortable he was. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him, I go, dude, this is one of the highest quality pieces of clothing I've ever touched. I was prepared to pay you $120 just now. And you're cut. And that's the limiting mindset.
Yeah.
Because people will go, no one will ever pay me that. And I go, motherfuckers got money. Because let me tell you this, like, I'm going to speak at Stormy Wellington. I'm interviewing Stormy Wellington, who is an MLM expert who went from a stripper at 13, to being worth, I think she's worth 50 mil right now. Right? From a stripper at 13 fucking years old. And I'm going to interview her at her own event. And I look at people like that and I go, that woman knows her worth. If she can do it, why can't you? Yeah. And it's fear.
Oh, it is. It's also the people around them who are like, no one's going to pay that. No, I can't. Like, it's
fuck
right there.
Those people.
Yeah. So I love that we're talking about this because because a lot of people listen to this are Pilates instructors. And like the thing that pissed me off from the day I got into the industry was people saying, oh, there's no money in Pilates. And so I started teaching Pilates in 2008. It's the recession. It was the world. Everyone knows what 2008 means, right? And all these teachers had started discounting their rates. Because of the recession. I'm like, okay, I guess that makes a little bit of sense. But when I was trying to figure out my rates, everyone's like, well, you charge less than her because she's been teaching longer than you. I'm like, well, she's discounted her rates. I can't I can't live off of that. Like I tell this, I lived in LA. There is an income level you have to meet to survive Los Angeles with roommates. Right. And so I was like, fuck no, I'm going to charge what she's charging. That's her discounted rate. So I'm going to charge that. Yeah. And here's the thing everyone needs to hear. You have to understand that there are people who are looking at you to base their prices and they're going, oh, they have more experience than me, so I should be less than them. You need to create room for those people above all else. Like if you can't raise your rates for you, then you need to raise your rates for the people who are up and coming to give them an opportunity in whatever industry it is to make a living doing it. Like just be kind and thoughtful about those people. But the other thing is that there are people out there who want a problem solved. You want really awesome black sweaters because you want to wear black and that's what you like. That's your power color. That's what you want. You want to pay for good quality stuff. You don't want to pay for something $50. Like if you had just if you had only seen online and you saw the price, you'd been like, oh, the quality is probably bad. Yeah. Like, but you touched it. So you knew the quality was good. Not everyone's going to be able to experience whatever your thing is to actually understand the quality. So you have to understand when you price yourself, if you discount yourself, the thing that I was taught really, really long time ago was you will be discounted. Yeah. People will just stop thinking about you. And that comes down to your standards, which is what's really difficult in this country because we don't have any. You look at everything in America right now, there is no standard. And look, I'm not shaming anyone for anything that they do ever, but it's like, look at the way people are operating in this country right now. It's like, blame you, not my problem. Government owes me this, so on and so forth. And like, that's the standard we're creating in families, in communities, in businesses. And it's like, people always talk about how underpaid women are in this country and how underpaid minorities are in this country. I know so many women minorities who like make you and I combined look like we're homeless. Yeah. Because they're out there getting it. I'm not saying it's not hard, right? And I am a fucking minority in case you're not watching. And it's like, I look at my community, the greatest thing growing up that I would bear witness to of what people defined as success was the 1st and the 15th. Did I get my government check? And it's like, Lesley, I watched that every day as a child to be celebrated, to be basked in. People would be like, oh, my job cut me by 4 hours. I get more money from the government. I'm like, you forever will be in that until you raise your standard, your standard of living, your standard of relationships, your standard of money. If you're underpaid in your job, it's your fault. And people don't want to hear that.
And this is where I get the most pushback because they go, you're lucky. You figured it out. It's like, no, I've been on welfare. I've been on food stamps. I've got caught wearing the Tommy Hilfiger jacket. I've been 50 grand in debt. I didn't have 2 nickels to run together, or as my grandmother used to say, a pot to piss in. and I look at my life now, and you and I have been in dinners where multiple thousands of dollars, where we wear what we want to wear. We travel how we want to chair. We got the Amex Platinums. It's like, yeah, but I didn't used to.
Right.
And neither did you. But when you raise your standards, even though there's a consequence to it, you will lose friends, you will lose community, you'll be shunned by family members, people will talk shit about you, you will likely have to climb up the hill to get to who you want to be, but your life will be so much better.
I love that you're saying that, and I'm so hopeful that people rewind that and re-listen, because it is really, really true. Like, we're flying to Scotland, and we have Amex Platinum, so we can go into the lounges. And when there's a Centurion lounge, you can bring your guest because we spend enough. And then when it's not a Centurion lounge, it's like a priority pass lounge, which we get from having that credit card. We have to pay for the guest. And my dad's like, don't pay for me. It's $50. I said, wait, we're going to go lounge it, and you're going to sit out here and spend $49 on food in the airport? Get the fuck in line. Get in line with us. We're paying your you're going to spend $50 in the airport.
Anyway, easy.
So
for garbage.
Let's go enjoy the Delta Lounge. Get a free beer. Have some fucking shrimp. Eat a meal that you want to eat. Yeah. And he grew up where that was insane. And I understand that, and I don't want to change anybody. I want to force anyone to change. But I said, Dad, it is okay to take the higher path. It's okay to take the thing that seems seems ridiculous. It seems ridiculous to spend $50 to go in this lounge. It to me is ridiculous to spend $40 on fucking crap Johnny Rockets food in the airport.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's raising your standards. It's also it's not like I could have had this 8 years ago. 10 years ago, I was homeless. 8 years ago, I was not able to be in the lounge life yet, but I dreamt of it. I had it on my vision board. I had it on my thing, and I looked for opportunities for when those things could come along. Yeah. And that is the difference. It's okay for your dreams and your reality to be far apart, but it's about seeing those opportunities and not letting people and their stories tell you what you can and can't do with your life. And that's what most people are. They're letting the stories that were ingrained in them tell them what they can do. Yeah. That's not real.
Yeah. And look, and also 8 years ago, you didn't have the skills. You sucked.
Yeah.
Call it what it is. Mm-hmm. No, seriously, call it what it is. I sucked too. I didn't have the skills 8 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, last month. And it's like, if you can leverage that and recognize skills have utility, that's where growth. You didn't know how to make a funnel. Right. You didn't know how to create a lead magnet. You didn't know what conversion meant. You didn't know how to look at ROI. But then you take the business aspect out of it. You take it out of life. You didn't know how to brush your teeth. Right. You didn't know what it meant to clean yourself up every day and go and be kempt. Right. Yeah. You didn't understand what it was like to raise the value of the person that you're willing to date, be in a relationship and marry. Yeah. And it's something that you build and you grow as you go through this, if you're fucking paying attention.
Yeah, that's a great place to think about that. You have to. It's really hard, guys. It is not, when you look at people doing things that you wish you were doing, it's not easy. They don't have it easier. Maybe some people had a different starting point. Okay, so that makes it different. But you have to stop comparing your starting point with someone else's and understand that you're on your own journey. There's no fucking race. And the more you develop the skill sets and the more you actually welcome the challenges, and because you're going to learn something, they're not fucking fun. It's not like, yes, a challenge, bring it on. The last 3 years I've bought on challenges I would never wish for on my enemies. But I am so glad I sit here and gone through them, because now we're in another challenge. I'm like, this is nothing. We're going to totally get past this because we have all this evidence that we have.
Yeah. And it's so going back to that point, new levels, new devils, but the devils become easier to fight because you have skills that support and prove that you can. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what all this journey is. And the fear that people have about leaving the relationship or quitting the job or going and traveling the world, it's the second you do it, the fear is gone. Yeah. And that's the only way that you grow. Yeah. And I encourage people to do that more, because you're going to die. And it's I don't know about you, but my biggest fear is regret.
Yeah.
I do not want to wake up and be like, fuck, this is my last day and I didn't do any of the things.
Yeah.
But I come from a society in which that is totally acceptable.
Yeah. Years ago, I listened to a podcast where a woman who like did a bunch of books. She spent a lot of time with people on their deathbed and she wrote a book about it. And she's probably very famous. And some people is probably shouting to me what her name is. And I'm sorry, can't hear you right now. And I don't remember the podcast it was, but I remember hearing that she said, interviewing tons of people on their deathbed, the biggest thing was regret.
Yeah.
It was absolutely like the things that they did not do when they had the opportunity. And when I trying to figure out like making choices, I ask myself, am I going to regret this tomorrow that I didn't do it? Or am I going to like I was in Brazil and I didn't really have a lot of extra money. And I was like, fuck, I'm almost out of money. And like I leave in 3 days. And I was going to skip the hang gliding experience because it was expensive. And then I asked myself, am I going to regret going home and telling everybody about this trip? And they go, did you go hang gliding? And I'm going to say, no. Like, is that okay with me? Am I doing it for them or am I doing it for me? And I remember going, I really want to have this experience. Yeah. And so I fucking took out the money.
You should.
And I did the hang gliding thing. And here we are 11 years later. I still can picture that moment. So I think that that's a really great thing. I know that we could keep talking forever because we enjoy each other's company, but I do want to ask you like what you're most excited about coming up for you right now.
First, that book is called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying.
Thank you.
By Bronnie Ware.
Thank you very much.
It's actually in my Audible, so I should probably listen to that.
We'll just do a book club. Yeah. I'll listen to that one. You listen to The Big Leap. When we get back into town at the end of the year, we can talk about it.
Right now, it's like I'm getting ready to... Again, that thing, like I'm all about the commitment, like just see what happens. I'm getting ready to head to South America for 2 months.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, I know I'm going to do ayahuasca. I know that's going to happen. I'll be doing an 8-day retreat. And that to me is like really about stepping deeper into this journey. There's still like, even though like I've been on this path for 13 years, there's still some blackness in my soul. There's some dark shit I got to work through. And so we'll see what happens with that. And then it's like, I'm going to go to Buenos Aires because I always wanted to. I'm going to go to Lima and Machu Picchu. And I'm going to just like, so it came to me in a meditation recently. I always ask myself, I like ideate in meditation. I'm not trying to find Zen. It doesn't work for me. I'm trying to solve problems. And it came to me in this meditation. I was like, what's the hardest thing that I could do right now? And the answer was rest. And so I've been like really injecting myself into that. And so this will be the last phase of the rest to go down to South America for a couple months in this year. So I'm extremely excited about that because it's necessary.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to do that. I can't wait to hear how it goes.
Yeah. What about you?
I actually, along those lines, I'm about to be gone for 3 weeks. 3 weeks out of my routine, 3 weeks. And only one of those weeks is where I actually have a timeline. I'm leading a retreat in Cambodia. But whenever I'm there, because I'm 14 hours ahead of like anybody who needs anything from me, and you're so close to the equator, you guys, there's something interesting about being in that life and in the humidity and pretty much everything is organic and plant-based. So like it's just coming from the farm that's right there. That really helps me pause and I get my best ideas, and I have intentionally not planned as much of next year as possible.
Love that.
We have like literally planned like one big project and the retreat for next year, and everything else. There's a ton of stuff that we're going to do. We know we have to find dates for it, but I do not want to find those dates until I come back because I would like to see what comes up for me. I want to see what comes up in being still and getting massages every day and sleeping in, like literally not waking up to an alarm and just allowing my body to rest like you're doing, but also see what comes up because I know that there is something bigger and bolder and I just need to actually get out of the whirlwind to hear it. And it is so important to give those opportunity. And then I fucking can't wait to come back because I love my house and I love my dogs and I love the life that I've created for myself, but I really am excited to just take a pause from it and just see what comes up because of the stress of, y'all, buying your fucking first house is the hardest thing you'll ever fucking do. And I do not wish it. I want everyone to have a house, but I do not wish the journey on anyone because it is painful to prove that you are worthy of the thing that you know you are worthy for because you're currently paying for it. And so to prove to all these fucking
idiots that my husband and I could afford this house. That took us 18 fucking months.
Yeah,
18 months of stress. And so I just really felt like I couldn't dream again. Then after that all went down to the May. You're like, it's like, if you're like, Lesley, happened a long time ago. It happened in May. Y'all, recovery is a bitch. Like, it took a lot out of me. And I really have been just like taking things as slow as possible just to like really not burn myself out, because I love what I do. But I've let myself go, okay, in Cambodia, we are dreaming again. We are going to allow ourselves to let visions and ideas and goals and wants in, because I cannot wait to see what we do for the next 10 years. I mean, like, this was a big goal for Brad and I, and it took fucking longer than we wanted, which is why smart goals don't work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's peace in the pause.
Yes, there's peace. And my friend Jackie always says there's power in the pause.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard for people to slow the fuck down, but even hummingbirds sleep, you guys. So like,
I'm one of those people. And so that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to come back with peace and power.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, for my show, we do beit action items. So I do need to know some bold, executable, intrinsic target advice you want to give people.
Yeah. I think it really all comes down to commitment. To your goals, your dreams, who it is that you want to be, who it is that you want to become. And as you go down this path, it's recognizing that you can't be dogmatic even in those commitments. And you have to just walk the path, and whatever's supposed to be there will be there.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That's a big one. That's pretty bold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Thanks for hanging out with me today.
Of course. It's super fun.
Yeah. People can find you, follow you, work with you.
Yeah. Michael Unbroken. And then all social medias. And then, of course, the Think Unbroken podcast. Yeah. And where can they find you?
Instagram, Lesley.Logan. That's where I hang out. And this is the Be It Till You See It podcast. So you can find us here. Like we said, FYFs every Friday if you need an inspiration to celebrate a fucking win. And Brad joins us, and we'll be talking about you, Michael, on Thursday.
I love talking.
Yeah. You'll get to hear what we have to say about you. Oh, this is so fun. We'll do it again. Enjoy your power and your pause. And until next time, everyone, be it till you see it.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of the Bloom Podcast Network.
It's written, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Kroll.
It is produced and edited by the epic team at Disenyo.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to Melissa Solomon for creating our visuals and Samena Velazquez for our transcriptions.
Also to Angelina Herrico for adding all the content to our website, and finally to Meredith Crowell for keeping us all on point and on time.